Picture a ballroom full of diamonds and easy laughter. Then imagine the air going thin, like you just stepped off a cliff. Across the room I saw my ex-wife, the woman I should have fought for, and three little boys holding her dress who looked exactly like me. If it were you and your past walked in carrying your future, what would you do? I froze. No hero move, no smooth line, just a man with a champagne flute that suddenly felt like a dumb prop in the wrong movie. My name is Theo Kensington, and that night was supposed to be another glossy gala where people clap for checks and talk about impact between dessert courses. But under those chandeliers, my life split wide open. Simone Jamerson. My Simone when the sun hit her cheekbones just right. My Simone when her voice turned to steel. Stood framed by candelabras as if the universe had staged the shot. And the boys. Tiny suits, familiar eyes, the same gray-blue I shave in the mirror every morning. 1, 2, 3. My breath missed a step. My heart said the word I'd been too proud to say for years. Father. Who is that, my date? Whispered pearls clicking like punctuation as she followed my gaze. Who is that? The woman I never stopped loving, the life I was too cowardly to protect. Simone shifted just an inch, that automatic shield mothers have, then turned toward the exit like a person who knows exactly how to leave without becoming a headline. That was the needle that popped whatever bubble I was in. I pressed my glass into my date's hand and said the only honest word I had. Simone. Heads turned. People love a live show, especially the kind they can pretend not to watch. I threaded through sequins and black ties, murmuring sorry, like it mattered, chasing the drag of 3 small jackets and the woman who had every right to hate me. I caught up by the coat check, where real life hides under crystal, and somehow my voice remembered how to be gentle. Simone. Up close, you could read the years I'd missed in small ways. The tired shimmer under her eyes, the quiet strength in her posture, the way her smile had learned to be careful. The boys anchored themselves to her like buoys. And me, rich polished cufflinks doing their little twinkle. I dropped into a crouch so I wouldn't tower over them. Hey, I said steady as I could. I'm Theo. These are my sons, she answered the word my, laid on the table like a line I might not cross. Her tone was calm, but the edges hummed. What are their names? I asked, because sometimes the first step is learning how to say what matters out loud. She smoothed a curl on the leftmost boy. Isaiah. She nodded to the sparkler grinning at the juice station across the hall. Micah. Then she rested a hand on the quiet one who was studying me like a puzzle he knew he could solve. Xavier. I said their names in my chest so I wouldn't lose them if the ground shifted. Isaiah, Micah, Xavier. Up close, I saw my face in pieces I didn't know could travel. Isaiah's little nose crinkling when he thought hard. Micah's slightly flared ear my mother teased me about when I was 6. Xavier's steady gaze that felt older than both of us. I kept my hands to myself. 1,000 small rights, lifting, fixing, kissing foreheads, were not mine to claim. Not yet. And then, heels like pistol shots on marble. My date arrived in a rush of perfume and questions, voice pitched to slice. Theo, what is happening and who are... She stopped when she clocked Simone and the boys, and even a socialite knows when to swallow a gasp. Not now, I said, iron under velvet. Please go home. I'll call you. She stared like I'd pushed her out of a moving car, hissed something about not sticking around for this drama, and left. Yeah, that happened. The room had opinions. The lounge down the hall had doors. I asked the staff for a quiet space, a couple juice boxes, some fruit. Money opens doors, sure, but kindness keeps them open. So I led with please and thank you, and tried to put my ego in my pocket next to the tip. Inside the VIP lounge, we sat like people holding breakable things. The boys attacked apple slices like champions. Simone sat upright, not touching the back cushion, the posture of someone who stays ready to leave. "I owe you an apology," I said, and the words tasted like humility finally learned too late. "For everything." She gave a small nod that forgave nothing and also didn't set me on fire. "We're fine," she said. "We manage. The boys are happy." She looked at them with the kind of pride that softens a whole face, and I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep it together. "You've done a beautiful job," I managed, throat tight. "Thank you." Then I asked the question that had been pounding in my ribs since the chandeliers. "Why didn't you tell me knife meet wound?" Her eyes flashed like flint. "Tell you," she said, soft, which is a dangerous volume. "Would you have fought for us, Theo, or would you have done what you did before? Gone quiet and let other people decide what your love is worth?" I wanted to argue. My history shut my mouth. Isaiah toddled over and stuck a grape wrapper on my knee like a medal, and that tiny laugh, my laugh, his laugh, undid me in a way I can't translate. "Are you sad?" Xavier asked, so gentle I almost missed it. Simone started to correct him, but I shook my head. "Yeah, buddy," I said, and the word buddy came out like a wish. "I'm sad because I missed someone very important for a long time, and seeing them again makes your heart feel full and achy at the same time. You ever feel that?" He nodded with the gravity little kids have when they know too much. "You know what I mean?" Let me pause here. If you've ever wanted a do-over, if you've ever replayed one moment in your head 1,000 times, thinking say something, stand up, don't let her walk away, this part is for you. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. I changed. I told Simone, and I said it like a man reporting from the other side of a fire. Not overnight, not gracefully, but I did. I built my business without my father's checkbook. I cut the strings that kept me small. I learned that being a man is more than paying for things. If anyone, including my family, disrespects you or these boys, they don't get to be in my life. Not now, not ever. I heard my own voice and knew it wasn't borrowed anymore. Her eyes didn't soften yet. There was still a lock behind them. "We should go," she said. It was late, the boys were fighting yawns, reality had to be tucked in. "Let me drive you home," I asked, hands open. She hesitated, then nodded. Sometimes hope looks like a ride, and a seatbelt clicked twice. Micah wanted to know if I owned toys, which made me laugh, because corporate America is basically expensive toyland. But I kept that part to myself. We passed a 24-hour spot, and I committed a small crime against bedtime. Vanilla cones for everyone, including the mom, who said no until she had one in her hand. She smiled over it, small, surprised, and I swear I would have bought the moon to keep that tiny joy. Her house was small and warm and deeply alive. Crayon masterpieces taped at child height. 3 little beds lined up like anchors, each with a different colored blanket. I carried a sleepy Micah to bed, adjusted the stuffed dinosaur under his arm like it was sacred. Simone kissed foreheads, whispered goodnights with a rhythm you don't mess with. At the door, she looked at me and asked, "Do you want to say goodnight?" That question felt like a key. I knelt by Isaiah, said his name like a prayer, tucked the blanket edge the way my father used to, before he forgot how to be gentle. When I reached Xavier, his eyes were heavy but thoughtful. He reached up and patted my cheek, like he was comforting me, not the other way around. Night-night, he mumbled, and I had to blink the sting away before it fell. In the hallway, it was just us, quiet like a truce. "Thank you," she said, voice barely there, "for being gentle." "I should be thanking you," I whispered, because that's what it felt like. Standing in a home love had built, invited to witness what I'd missed. "I know I have to earn this." "I will." She held my gaze a long beat, then did something I didn't expect. She hugged me. Not dramatic, not movie perfect. Human. The hug of a person tired of holding everything alone. I wrapped my arms around her and felt every mile of the last years. Fevers at 2 a.m., bills paid by miracle and grit report cards on the fridge, new fears conquered without a witness. "I'm here," I said into her hair, because that was the only promise worth anything. "Then you should hear this," she said. And that's where the twist lives. Simone pulled a manila envelope from a drawer. Printed emails, a saved voicemail. Proof. The email was from a board member's wife the morning after that first fundraiser. Coded words about suitability optics circles that may not understand which is how people say ugly things without using ugly words. The voicemail was my mother's voice. Cool, careful, deadly. "If you care for my son, you won't burden him with a scandal. Our name has obligations. If you insist on bringing children into this, our lawyers will not be kind, and they will not lose." Simone stopped it before the worst line completed, and I felt sick. For years, I had told myself a story. Simone left because she was proud, because she wanted to hurt me, because she chose independence over partnership. No. She left to protect our children from a fight she had no reason to believe I'd join. And let's be honest, I hadn't given her one reason to think I'd stand up to the people who signed my checks and shaped my spine. Do you think that's fair? If it were you, would you have told me, or would you have run to keep the wolves from the door? Shame burned hot in my chest. I didn't know I said, and the words were late and flimsy but true. I should have guessed. I should have asked. I should have believed you the first time. She didn't gloat. She didn't rehearse my failures. "We can't unspill that water," she said. "But now you know." So right there in that hallway, with nightlight glow spilling from a kid's room, I made my mother small and my family big. I called her, speaker on no shadows, no secret. "If you ever threaten Simone again," I said, calm like steel, "we're done. Not the holiday kind of done. Done. The next words from you to me need to be an apology." She tried her old tactics, reframe guilt legacy, and I cut the call. Sometimes the bravest thing a son can do is hang up. We kept our promise to go slow. The next weeks were small and holy. I showed up at 6 a.m. with breakfast sandwiches and the kind of coffee that saves Tuesdays. I learned the witchcraft of getting small arms into sweater holes without catching a thumb. I became fluent in dinosaur names I never cared about before. The park turned into a cathedral where gravity took a break and swings made room for forgiveness. I read the same book so many times I started doing voices, and the boys made fun of me, which was the best. One afternoon, the three of them stood in front of me like a tiny jury. Mr. Theo Micah said, serious like a weather report, "Are you our daddy?" Simone knelt beside them, took hands, steadied the room. "Yes," she said. "He is." And I, grown man with the good shirts and the bad habits, cried so hard I scared the dog 2 doors down. They yelled "Daddy" and tackled me, and I have never been more certain of a mission in my life. Not everybody clapped. Word reached my parents, and my mother appeared on Simone's porch like a storm in a silk coat. Old me would have stepped aside, tried to broker peace that wouldn't cost me. Numi stood in the doorway and said the simplest sentence I could craft. If you can't treat Simone and our children with respect, you can't come in. She played the inheritance card, the pedigree card, the school card. I told her we were building a different deck. My father called later with generosity, wearing a mask. A trust fund for the boys, if Simone agreed to conditions that were really control dressed as concern. No, I said, and my spine felt taller. We're not for sale. Do you think I went too far, or finally far enough? Are blood and legacy worth anything? If the price is your partner's dignity and your children's peace. Somewhere in there, the ground between me and Simone changed. Co-parenting turned into late-night talks on a stoop under cheap string lights that looked perfect for reasons I can't explain. We told the truth like people who had learned how expensive lies can get. One afternoon at the park, while the boys chased a butterfly, she slid her hand into mine. No speech, no soundtrack, just a choice. You know what I mean? Months later, because slow was our promise, I asked without fanfare. Someday can we do this for real again, I said, when they're old enough to carry the rings and tell the story. She laughed through tears and said yes to someday, which is the most honest yes. A year later in the same park, our sons in small suits carried rings like they were hauling the moon. My father stood at the back, quiet. My mother sent a letter that wasn't enough and maybe never would be. It didn't matter. The family that needed to be there was on the grass. Before you call it a fairy tale, let me tell you the part that matters. It's work. The kind that blisters your pride and strengthens your heart. We still argue. We still say sorry. We still learn the same lesson twice. But the ground has changed. Pride will starve you while convincing you you're full. Prejudice will call itself protection and poison your house. Money tells big lies about safety. Family, the kind you build with diaper runs and bedtime songs and hard boundaries at the door, that's the treasure. Here's where I'll make it messy on purpose because I want the comments section to breathe. When my mother tried again later, offering a version of amends that came attached to conditions, I told her no and meant it. Holidays changed. The table got smaller and louder and happier. Some people say a son should never shut the door on a mother. Some say a man who won't protect his wife and children isn't a man. Where do you land? Do you think that's fair? I walked into that ballroom, a millionaire people clap for, and walked out, a father some people might judge. I'll take the second one every time. If you were Simone, would you have forgiven me? If you were me, would you have had the courage to hang up on family, to stand up for the family you chose? How far would you go to protect the people you love when the threat looks like your own last name? Drop your thoughts below. Push back, agree, tell me your story, if you've lived anything like this. Share this with someone who needs a nudge to pick love over pride today. And if this got under your skin, stick around. Because the next story, let's just say it'll make this look like the warm-up.